Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson. We are located on the historical lands of the Eastern Cherokee and Southern Iroquois. My name is Colonel Dieter, and I'm your worship associate today. Whoever you are, wherever you are in your life journey, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, wherever you were born, whatever language you speak, you are welcome here. Whatever your skin color, whatever your class, background, whatever your range of abilities, you are welcome here. We are so glad that you chose our fellowship as your place of worship this morning. Whatever your thoughts, whatever your desires, whatever your politics, whatever your theology, we come together for worship in order to slow down and listen for the callings of our hearts, our spirits. We come together for worship so that we can be reminded of our highest aspirations and continue to transform ourselves into our best selves. If you are joining us for the first time this morning, welcome. After the service, we gather for coffee and social connection in the social room. Please join us. If you're interested in getting our weekly newsletter so that you can get connected to our community, our weekly sharing of joys and concerns, and our collective efforts to support local social justice work, please reach out to the office by email on our website. And I want to extend a special welcome to our visitors. If you would like, I invite you to stand as you are willing and able to introduce yourself. Do we have any visitors this morning? Finally, I want to extend a special welcome to our online viewers. I have a few announcements. On Thursday, October 26th at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., SUUJA Anti-Racism Workshop with Paula Cola-Jones, and you can register in advance for this Zoom worship. There is a $35 registration fee, which goes to scholarships. On Friday, October 27th at 9:30 a.m., there will be a hula hike to the Bridal Veil Falls at DuPont State Forest, and please contact Sarah Summers Hoskins to sign up for the hike. Sarah, and on Saturday, November 4th at 10 a.m. to noon, Braver Angels Workshop will be conducted by Dale Kimbler, and again, contact him to register online. And then finally, I would note that there are a more extensive list of announcements on the back of your bulletin. So please join me in rising for the music, song, and hymn, which is number 1003, Where Do We Come From? So please stand as you are able or willing. The opening words, Grounding in Our Faith, is by Alice Anacheka Naisman. In a time of uncertainty, when everything around us is changing constantly, when the world we live in suddenly seems upside down, and topsy-turvy. We light our chalice to remind ourselves of our grounding in our faith. We remember that the flaming chalice came into being as a beacon of hope during World War II, a secret symbol that offered help. In the midst of it all, we wrap ourselves in the warm light of a familiar flame, a reminder of the strength that emerges when we come together in community.
Thank you, Carl. I'd like to now invite Talia to come forward and help me in lighting our chalice this morning, as you are invited to read along with me our affirmation words, which are found on your order of service. We gather together in the spirit of love, with justice as our guide. This is our chosen covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth with freedom, and to care for one another.
This morning's story is about how we challenge ourselves to open up, to encompass more, to bring more people into our lives, our faith, our traditions. So this morning's story is Circles All Around Us, written and illustrated by Brad and Christy Montague. We begin by drawing a circle on the ground along each shoe. A safe little place for just one person. Nobody in this circle but you. You could keep that circle closed to everyone but yourself, but that would be like a library with just one book on the shelf. So let's draw a bigger circle for you and your family to share. Now you see what all can happen in a circle full of care. It becomes a happier circle as more loved ones come to stay. And wouldn't it be even better if all your friends could come and play? So you stretch and draw your circle even bigger than it's been, and let a few more people know they're welcome to come in. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference we can make and a love we can all show. Yet, there are still so many outside the circle who are different in all they do, though it seems slightly uncomfortable. We draw a bigger circle for them too. It doesn't mean the circle is easy. It can get harder the more we share. But wonderful things can happen when love is known and felt everywhere. As time passes, our eyes open. We see others we really care for. And that's when we ask ourselves, well, what's this circle really there for? So let us create bigger circles all around us for the rest of our days. Let our caring ripple out in a million little ways. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference we can make and love we can all show. As our circles grow and we watch them wonder-eyed, remember, the first circle started with just the love you hold inside.
This is the time we set aside for the offering in order to give toward the financial vitality of this community. Also, 25% of the weekly collection each week goes to an organization in the local community that we partner with. For the month of October, we're partnering with Ripple of One. For those at home, you can go to the UUFC website and use the donate button. There, you will see options for paying your pledge and donating toward the organizations we partner with. Thank you for your generosity.
Thank you all for these gifts that you offer to the ministries of this congregation. We now enter into a time of sharing joys and concerns. It is a sacred time of sharing our hearts with one another, whether they are read aloud or remain quiet and tender. This is a time that allows us to hold one another in love and care. As I read our joys and concerns today, I've asked Carl to place a stone in the shared vessel that represents this community of caring. Have a joy from Sarah Summers Hoskins. Thankful for the interesting discussion on animal rights during Socratic Cafe this morning. Thanks to Alan for a great class. Joy from Karen Sanders is that a wonderful friend of UUFC donated dishcloths to hospitality. Yes, always a good thing to have. Have a joy from Petra Bear that it is hopeful Mandy is watching the service on her new tablet this morning. Hi, Mandy. And hello to all of our viewers online. And I wrote down a joy today. I have two of them, well, maybe three. So I enjoyed going to a circle dinner for food and fellowship last night. And I have gratitude for Carl, John, and Dell for making adjustments to how things were going to happen this Sunday and making our tech and worship associates here today possible. Have a joy that I've decided I need to go to trauma therapy and get sober. I'm almost a week sober. Have a joy from Day that today includes increasing the safety of my home, getting to see fall leaves in North Carolina, and working through some challenging interactions with others. See, have a concern from Talia that I found a dog and it didn't have a collar. Yes. Have a joy from Mike Cole that yesterday the work party was both productive and a time for fellowship, thanks to Meg for managing it. And have a joy from Holly Ulbrich that is
hard to read my printing.
I'm not sure what the,
Retreat?
is that, okay, attending a Celtic Christian retreat at Montreat. It is a form of Christianity totally compatible with Unitarian Universalism. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Sometimes dyslexia is a joy and a concern when letters run together. And for these and all of the joys and concerns that remain unspoken, we add one final stone to our bowl this morning. And I offered this brief prayer that to Spirit of Life, we lift up all of these joys that have been shared here today. We also lift up the concerns that weigh heavily on our hearts as violence and hurt continue to happen in our world, both globally and those gathered closer to home that are impacted by it. May we be surrounded by and support one another at times of need and in celebration. We lift up these concerns and pray for compassion and support for all of those that are hurting. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. You are now invited to sing our children off to their RE classes. The words will be shared on the screen for Go Now in Peace. And again, on the slides, it's printed as it is in the hymnal, even though we all sing different words. It's the beauty of community and finding something that fits us. Today, I have a responsive reading that I would like all of you to join me in reading. You can find it in your hymnal at number 165 in the gray hymnal, or it'll also be shared on the screens. I'll read the line in plain print, and then there'll be the italicized line that you'll read in response. Okay. Deep in ourselves resides the religious impulse. We have religion when we stop deluding ourselves that we are self-sufficient, self-sustaining, or self-derived.
We have religion when we hold some hope beyond the present, some self-respect beyond our failures.
We have religion when our hearts are capable of leaping at beauty, when our nerves are edged by some dream in the heart.
We have religion when we have profound gratitude for all that we have received.
We have a religion when we look upon people with all their failings and still find them good, when we look beyond people to the grandeur of nature and to the purpose in our own heart.
We have religion when we have done all that we can
thank you. I know that responsive readings aren't something that we as UUs do super often, but thank y'all for joining me in that. And as promised a few weeks ago when a video failed to play from Leah Morris for Heart Wide Open, I have it today, and we tested it before service, and it worked. So,
keep your heart wide open, though the waves wanna push you around. You've got to keep your heart wide open till your faith brings you back to solid ground. I'm gonna keep your heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open. Though the waves want to push around, though the waves want to push me around, I'm gonna keep your heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Till my faith brings me back to solid ground. I'm gonna keep your heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open. Though the waves want to push around, though the waves want to push me around, I'm gonna keep your heart. I'm gonna keep wide open. I'm gonna keep my heart wide open till my faith brings me back to solid ground. Till my faith brings me back to solid ground.
now, in just a moment, I'm going to welcome Holly Ulbrich to come and share her testimonial this morning. But I wanted to offer a brief update on our pledge drive thus far. As of Friday morning, we had 7 pledges that had come in, bringing us to raise $35,000, and that's a really great start. And we need all of you to help fill that remaining gap of $145,000. And I know that we have a spirit of abundance here among you, and that we can achieve that if we do it together. And now I'd like to invite Holly to come and share a little bit about why she's here and why she gives.
One of my favorite descriptions of Unitarian Universalism is that's the place where you go to get your answers questioned. I used to go hiking with a friend, and one of the things this friend did for me was to ask me really good questions that I would have to think about. And one day when I was walking with my friend, I was talking about a sermon I was working on, and she said, "What is the purpose of a sermon?" Good question. So I thought about it and I said, the purpose of a sermon is to affirm, to challenge, and to inspire. And that's also the purpose of religious community. So we are here, first of all, to be affirmed, that we are loved, that we are welcome, that we have gifts that others appreciate, that we will be cared for in difficult times and upheld in our griefs and sorrows, that we can share our joys and concerns. So affirm always comes at the top of the list. And then there's challenge. Stewardship is one challenge, but we're challenged to just figure out exactly what our religious faith consists of. What we believe, what we care about, what we think is the purpose and meaning of life. I had no idea that we were going to be singing that hymn this morning or reading that responsive reading, but they fit perfectly into my understanding of how a congregation challenges us in a good way. It challenges us to grow. It challenges us to accept people who are different from us. It challenges us to accept our own limitations and also our own strengths and our own gifts, and to use them in community and beyond community. And finally, it inspires us. After we've been sufficiently affirmed and sufficiently challenged, where do we go with it? And of course, part of that is keeping this community going, affirming this community so that it will be here for us, but also here for those yet to come, because our ultimate mission and purpose is to make the world a better place by our presence in it. So I invite you, once you feel affirmed, once you know you've been challenged, to give generously to the stewardship effort that we may support the work of this congregation now and in the future.
Thank you, Holly. And our slide that we had up for a moment is a preview to part of my sermon, you will. And John, I was wondering if we could bring the volume for the pulpit down just a little bit. We're still getting some of that echo. Okay, we'll see if that works better. Can y'all still hear me? Is there less of an echo? Yeah. Okay, all right. So, like the song, the opening hymn said, who are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? And those are good questions, aren't they? Because the answer is not universal. Because if I asked each and every one of you where you came from, what traditions you came from, there'd be lots of different answers. Because our life journeys are unique to us, even where the similarities overlap. And we have a variety of different traditions that find home here in our Unitarian Universalism. Whether you come in as agnostic or Christian, Jewish, humanist, Muslim, Hindu, pagan, atheist, our faith, our Unitarian Universalism does not fit in a box. So I had this image that came into my mind several weeks ago when going on exploration of the waters of 76, my first month being here, that some folks took me on. And for some reason, this experience that I had when I was younger popped into my mind. I'm a minister's kid and was attending a church retreat. And there was a group that did a satire skit. They were called Lightly Salted Ministries. And they did this skit where they were putting God in a box and trying to say, oh, no, that's not what we want. That's not where we go. But they kept having God try to break out of the box. But what a wonder it is to be part of this faith that has broken that box wide open, that allows for religious pluralism. It is at the heart of our living tradition, and it allows us to learn and grow rather than to stagnate with a particular dogma or creed that was maybe created hundreds or even thousands of years ago. And that's not to say that history or tradition don't have a place, that they don't make meaning for us in this faith tradition. So I want to share a little bit of history with you, but I don't want to get too much into the weeds because I'm a little bit of a history nerd. But I want to share a little bit with you because Unitarianism, Universalism, and Unitarian Universalism have changed over decades, and they have different points of origin, and if you ask different people about our history, they might cite a different origin. So, if you look at Unitarians' lineage, some might go all the way back to 325 CE when the Council of Nicaea met. Because there was a cleric, a priest named Arius, and He and his followers believed that Jesus was both human and to some degree divine, but not at the same level of God as Trinitarians saw it. And he was labeled as a heretic. And this might be a theme that you'll pick up on. And Unitarianism, when it was also recognized and connected to the Edict of Torda by King John Sigismund in Transylvania. And some of you might have heard of pilgrimages or travels to Transylvania because of that connection. And that was an edict of toleration between Christian sects at the time. And here in the United States, Unitarianism grew out of Congregationalism in New England, meaning that the congregations governed themselves rather than being governed by the Church of England or the Catholic Church. And we had William Ellery Channing, who wrote a sermon titled Unitarian Christianity in 1819, and it was one of several things that stirred up the Unitarian controversy. Before the American Unitarian Association was created in 1825. So this Unitarian Christianity harkens back to that Arius question with the Council of Nicaea, in which William Ellery Channing spoke of the likeness of humans to God and the unity of God rather than the prevalence of the Trinitarian view. And so why does all of this matter? Because I don't want it to sound like I'm giving a history lecture. So why does it matter? Because our shared religious heritage can provide us a place for deeper understanding of one another and of our varied religious traditions that we come from. It has the power to influence how we make meaning in the world, and our Unitarian faith has evolved over the years and came to include religious humanism in the 1930s, and John Dietrich, the father of religious humanism, was one of many that signed the Humanist Manifesto, and so we have that connection more recently in our history as well. But I want to loop back to the Universalists, because I don't want to leave them out. So some might trace Universalism back to the writings of Origen in 230 CE, and later his condemnation as a heretic due to his idea of universal salvation. And then here in the US, we might connect the idea of Universalist church back to John Murray. And he is said to have written this about universal salvation. Quote, "Go out into the highways and byways, give the people something of your new vision. You possess a small light, but uncover it. Let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and minds of men and women. Give them not hell, but hope and courage. Preach the kindness and everlasting love of God." End quote. The Universalist Church of America was founded in 1793, so it came even before our Unitarian heritage formally started here in the US. And understanding some of that kind of ancient history, if you will, in some cases, allows us to understand all of the things that have influenced us and brought us to where we are now, so that we may better understand where we are going in the future. And you might have noticed some similarities in the language used for those two origins of our denomination. Who here has ever been called a heretic? Anybody? What do you think you would fall into that category? Yes, of course, yes. So basically, heretics, with a more common definition, is someone who believes or teaches something that goes against accepted or official beliefs, a person that differs from the established religious dogma. So I think all of us, any of us that identify as a UU, probably still could fall under that category. And I have to say, I'm pretty sure that some of my family thought that. My dad especially, when at 16, I told him, who was a United Methodist minister, that I was Wiccan, and then pagan. You know, that went over like a lead balloon. But it's what made sense to me at the time. And as a Unitarian Universalist, I get to bring that heritage, that background, that earth-centered tradition with me. I didn't have to leave it behind. And I found my way to Unitarian Universalism because of the covenant of UU pagans. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that part of my journey. And perhaps each of you have a story like that, what it is that brought you here, whether it was hurt from a past religious tradition or the seeking out of community and finding one another and making meaning. So I want to jump back for a moment to some of the history that was mentioned in the chalice lighting. Did you know that our chalice hasn't always existed and hasn't always been part of a service when it began and ended? So the origins of the chalice date back to the Unitarian Service Committee just prior to World War II, and it was a two-dimensional chalice on documents by this organization that were created by Hans Deutsch at the request of the USC's director so that they could have more official-looking paperwork as they helped Jewish refugees escape Nazi persecution. And over the years, that symbol has evolved and changed. And even though it wasn't always part of our Unitarian or Universalist history, what a powerful representation of Unitarian Universalism is an emblem that was created to help others. And it has continued to evolve. So a mentor of mine, the Reverend Dr. Susan Ritchie, is quoted as saying that she believes that the religious education classes are where the three-dimensional version of the chalice began, as a physical representation that could be used in those spaces, and that it was not until the 1980s sometime that the chalice, as we know it, made its first appearance at our large national gathering called General Assembly every year. So while it has not always existed as we know it, it is probably one of the things that is most prevalent across UU churches, congregations, fellowships, communities, whichever term we use to represent the gathered body. And they look a little bit different. And even here in this room, we have three different representations of the chalice. This one that we lit, one back here that is our banner for General Assembly that has the UUs creating the flame of the chalice, and the one here on the screen in the center. And this, in the center here, this image represents the proposed changes to the Article 2, which, does anybody know what the Article 2 holds? What's there? The principles, the bylaws, yes. And so our denomination has grown and evolved and changed. We are a living tradition. And so what we have written down is not in stone. It has the ability to change as we change. And so This image is part of a proposed change to Article 2, which is housed in the bylaws, so it takes a lot of effort to make a big change like that. So 2 years in a row, the gathered body at the General Assembly level, representatives from congregations just like this one, get together to discuss the proposed changes. And before that, we had an opportunity to make some recommendations, amendments. Holly can maybe confirm this for me, but I know that UUFC put in at least 2 proposed amendments. Yeah, several meetings to discuss that. And that was something that went on for many, many months. This process started in 2020 and will be continuing to next year at General Assembly in June of 2024 when it is voted on again. But one of the things that I think is most powerful about this proposed change is, who here has ever been asked the idea of giving an elevator speech about what Unitarian Universalism is? A few of you? So have any of you ever tried to remember and recite off the 7 or now 8 principles? Yeah? Teaching a class on it, yeah, some of us have tried that. Even as a minister, I struggle to remember what all of our 8 principles are, the exact wording and the order that they're in. But when I think of this graphic, and I think about the language that it starts out with, and I want to read that to you more specifically. So it starts off with a statement that says, quote, as Unitarian Universalist, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from the heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage built on a foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love, end quote. And so, while I'm not going to recite all of that off to people, because I did have to read it as a quote, I could say that our faith is a living tradition that has the power to learn and grow with us, that it is grounded in a theology of love, and that it is surrounded by 6 values that include interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice. And while I do have those written down, I can count them off on my fingers to make sure I remember all of them while talking to people. And this graphic helps me think about them in the little flower shape that I can recount them. And, some of the words that I just listed off, the values words, might sound familiar in our current 8 principles. And the one that I really wanted to lift up today in context of this service is the one about pluralism, which states, quote, pluralism, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect, end quote. So, does some of that language sound familiar, perhaps to one of our principles? Part of it should sound really familiar to our 4th principle, which states the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. It's the exact phrase that is incorporated into the new language, with some additions, of course. But this pluralism value statement expands that embracing our differences and our commonalities. That is our faith outside of the box. It moves from a singular understanding of religion as part of our religious ancestry into something that incorporates a variety of different traditions, a diversity of the people that we have in our spaces together. And it represents how we will continue to learn and grow and evolve together. And one of the earlier versions of this, instead of transformation, said evolution. And there were mixed feelings about that, and decided that transformation spoke more deeply. But understanding our history helps us understand how we got here. This didn't all come to be on a whim. This has been a process, something that has been shaped by what we have established as our faith tradition. It has evolved, it has transformed with us. And as we understand our history, it can help us define who we want to be, who we want to become. And even if it doesn't end up being this exact set of words and graphics that have been proposed, these have got us thinking about it being something different. And so I want to circle back in my closing to the words attributed to John Murray, and invite you to consider these as you move out into the world in this week and in the weeks ahead. Go out into the world. Share something of your vision. You possess a small light, but uncover it. Let it shine. Use it in order to bring more light and understanding to the hearts and minds of all people. Give them hope and courage and kindness and love. May it be so, and blessed be. You are now invited to rise in body or in spirit, wherever you are, to join in singing our closing hymn, number 123, Spirit of Life. So for our closing words today, as we extinguish our chalice, I want to reflect back on the words around our pluralism, that we covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. May you go forth with a spirit of curiosity, with a spirit of love, and a spirit of respect for yourself and for those around you. Go in peace and return in love.
Highway.